right now on MyFixitUpLife.
Woohoo!
Sanding walls before you paint? Do it the Hyde way, not the hard way, with Hyde's dust-free sander. Attach to your wet dry vac and go. No drywall dust on your furniture, no tough cleanup when you're done. Buy online at Amazon.com.
Yes, my dear.
I am psyched to talk about small spaces and tiny houses today. You know why?
I'm actually going to get the walls to move in like the trash compactor on Star Wars.
Well, we have awesome guests that are joining us today, and we are going to be joined by Kelly Edwards, who has the Design Cookbook, which I have on both my iPad and my iPhone. And we're also going to be joined by Kim Lewis, who has designed for the Tiny House Nation on FYI, and Carmen Hotchkiss, who is a deputy editor at Better Homes and Gardens. So if you are thinking about going small, or you have a small space and you need some design ideas, hello, we have got the best experts on our show today.
You are in the epicenter of small space design.
Yes.
From small houses.
Yes.
The tiny house movement, which is absolutely fascinating.
Yes, it is fascinating. And Mark and I were just in New York this week, and we were launching this thing for Dove Men Plus Care, which is all about sharing your space with your spouse. And
the smallest space, the bathroom, typically,
yes.
Right?
But then thinking about it too, you know, like all the different strategies you have with sharing your space with your spouse and making sure that your spouse is happy. It all starts in the bathroom, I think, because that's the most intimate space that you have in your whole house.
Absolutely. You do really everything in there, from number 1 and number 2. I'll say it. That's right. Because
yes.
Guess what? If you're older than 5, you know what's going on in there.
Yes, you do.
But you also raise your kids in there.
Yes.
There are baths, speaking of 5-year-olds. There are baths. Here's how you brush your teeth. Like, life events have to happen in a really small room.
Well, and I also think that when you're designing a space like a bathroom that you're sharing with your love person in your life, when you're designing it, is to think about, you know, those special moments, like creating opportunities to have romance.
Oh, that's lovely.
You know, have a place
Where are
to
those
put
in our bathroom?
Well, have a place to put a candle, you know, think about dimming the lights, you know, making sure that it's not just a place where you're like full contact, you know, like
not
trying to get out of my way because I'm putting my eyeliner on in the morning and you're trying to shave and we have to get ready and someone just threw up. So who's going to go deal with that mess?
Can you tell we have a young child and a lot of our life is based on poop and throw up?
Yeah, and we have cats too, so there's a lot of that kind of gross.
That's a triple layer
stuff. How do you deal with that in a small space? I am totally going to ask Kelly Edwards about
I want to
that.
ask Kim Lewis that, because it's the Tiny House Nation on FYI Network.
Yes.
That she's a designer for. And yes, we all have small bathrooms. They have small everything.
Yes.
And they're packed in there with animals and stuff. I've seen a couple of them.
They're packed in there with animals.
Not like animals, with animals.
Okay.
These places are like 500 square feet. They're on trailers.
They're even smaller than that. I saw one that was like 150 square feet. Can you even imagine? Like, that's like smaller than some people's bedrooms.
But there is also the awesomeness of that, because they're taking up the smallest possible footprint. They sometimes don't even need to buy land.
No.
They can rent, you know, the corner of someone's backyard, plug in, lots of solar stuff, which I think is cool. But I also love all the things that we get to talk about for small space design, like going vertical.
Vertical is such an important thing. And, you know, if you have not a lot of space, going vertical is good. But you know what is really something to think about too is our friend Kevin Smith, who lives in Japan, and he has how many children now? 4?
3.
I swear. They just moved back to Japan, and he was saying that he was going to be building this shed because they have to have a place to put their bikes. And that in Japan, at the home improvement center, they don't have those carts like we do here to put lumber on. They only have shopping carts. So like you have to balance your lumber on a little shopping cart.
That just doesn't seem to make much sense.
Dangerous.
You can put a few boards on there. I've done it.
Yeah.
Balanced, 1x12s or whatever on. You open the baby seat,
It just
and that's the way to keep it from sliding off.
It seems like you might impale someone, though.
It's bad.
Well, and the other thing, too, is, I don't know, this other thing that fascinates me in Japan is those little hotel rooms that look like they're like a hospital morgue.
The term
Like
room is ambitious.
It looks like a drawer that you like you get inside of. And I know it's a cultural thing, and we live in the US of A where like big is always our thing.
Our pedigree is we got lots of room to spread out geography-wise.
Yes. And that's why I'm really happy that we're talking about small spaces today, because if you can learn some tips from the experts about how to go small and how to maximize your space, and you can apply it in so many different ways, like your house will feel bigger no matter how big your house is. And I hear that Kelly Edwards is working on a new book too about small space design.
I want tips from art to shelves to everything that'll make it work in small spaces, but we have to take a big break.
We do, and we will be back in just a minute with more My Fix It Up Life.
Add more curb appeal to your home.
Create a memorable entrance with Therma-Tru fiberglass doors and 5-pond synthetic trim that won't warp, crack, or rot.
And give you those rich details that make your home a showpiece.
Make your great entrance by visiting Therma-Tru.com and 5pond.com.
And we are inside My Fix It Up Life, and this is my husband, Mark.
And this is my wife, Teresa, and we're bringing it into tiny spaces with big-time music.
And big talent, too, today.
Kelly Edwards is joining us, who is the author of the Design Cookbook.
Yes.
And she's here to talk about all kinds of stuff for small spaces, tiny spaces. Kelly, what do you call it? Like, what's the movement?
Oh gosh, I'm calling it staycation. People are creating staycations in their house. They don't want to spend all this money taking vacations and having these lavish houses that that just seem uncomfortable. Now they're just creating these staycations where they're creating this space that even at home it's like their own personal oasis.
I love that.
What rooms are they using that you're seeing? Is it the obvious, like the bathroom, or is it something I'm not seeing?
You mean for the staycation?
For the staycation, is it like, are they doing extra kitchen stuff, outdoor barbecue areas?
It's outdoors. Well, I'm seeing a ton of outdoor space. So it's all about that kind of indoor-outdoor thing that's been, that trend that's been happening for years. It's even more so now. But it's not just indoor-outdoor. I think what they're doing is they're just basically taking every room of their house and making it comfortable. But you're right. I mean, the bathroom is one place. People are creating those spa-like bathrooms now, getting the great shower heads and even doing that for the guest bath. That way they can have, family and friends come to their house. People are staying home more and creating more of a comfortable space there than wanting to look anywhere else.
I kind of think that's so true. Like, we do that more. I started this thing where, my girlfriends and we now just sort of hang out at our house every Friday night. And that's our thing. And they bring the kids over and we kind of take turns, like who's bringing dinner. And we have like a pergola and a whole thing in the backyard. And we do the fire. And instead of finding babysitter and, going out and spending the money, we are just so much enjoying just time together, but at home.
And not having to chase everything around. Drive to and
totally.
You know what I mean?
Well, I have a girlfriend, and she had this gorgeous big house, and she recently called and said, I sold my house. And I said, are you crazy? That house is amazing. She said, you know what? I wanted a smaller house and a bigger yard. So she sold her house. She got a smaller house, a bigger yard, and now she has this whole farm to table thing that she does. So she has this beautiful garden and a chicken coop.
Yeah.
And now every time I call her, I'm like, where do you want to go to dinner? She says, my house at 6:00. And that's what we do. Tonight at 6:00, I'm going to her house and we're going to hang out in her yard. And she has this gorgeous deck, but she's invested her money in the yard. That way she has that second space.
I like that so much. And the chicken coop thing is such a big thing these days too. I'm seeing more and more people that are raising their own chickens so that they can have those fresh eggs.
All right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, I think that's just kind of where everything's going. I recently did this this big conference with Waterpick, and it's the shower heads, and we were talking about what the trends are in design in terms of bathrooms, and it's like people are not just doing the basics in their bathroom. Now they're creating these, lavish spa-like bathrooms. That way they're comfortable in their own home. They're almost making them feel like hotels. People are wanting that whole hotel experience in their own house.
I would live in a hotel right now, by the way, because I love
Me
them
too.
that much.
I just think about that like Dylan character on 90210. He actually lived in a hotel. That's not
Don't
a show
even-
that you
don't-
consume?
Did he really?
Yes, he was that rich. He lived in the hotel.
Don't even use the phrase "remember"
Yeah.
for that show.
So we're talking small spaces, and you're working on a book on small spaces. Is that right?
I am, yeah. I did my first book called The Design Cookbook, Recipes for a Stylish Home, and that kind of ran the gamut of kitchens and living rooms and bathrooms and all that great stuff. And so I really wanted to have the book be more of like a series. So I started to think about what was the second one that I wanted to do, and it just made sense to do small spaces because that is where everybody's going. That's what everybody's doing. Like I said, it's no longer about buying these big places. It's taking their small spaces and making them bigger. I mean, people are even retrofitting the Airstreams now and living in them. And, that's small. People are taking shipping containers and making houses out of them. I mean, it's just, so I decided to take each chapter of my book, kitchens, bathrooms, and again, transform, the idea of small spaces and give people more ideas of what they can do with their space.
Can you see this? I have your book on my iPad.
Oh, awesome.
I do.
Clear that up so everybody
Yes.
can see it.
Oh,
Just
can you see it?
a little glare right
Oh,
there.
right
I
there.
can
Right
see
there.
it.
There you are.
And
I
the
carry you
funniest
around with
story
me everywhere.
about the cover is that my girlfriend I was just talking about with the amazing house, that's her kitchen.
Get out.
It is. It's her kitchen. She no longer lives there, obviously. So, that was her kitchen, though. Now tonight I'll have to take a picture. My next book will be her new kitchen, the smaller kitchen.
You should take a picture of her chickens. You should be
I
out there
would,
with
yes.
farmer overall jeans on.
Oh my gosh. That's a show I haven't seen yet is Chicken Coop Makeovers.
Chicken Coop
Somebody's got to be
Makeovers.
working on it right now because everyone has.
Oh, my God.
We're in.
Yeah.
I say, boy. I say, boy, you're short. You're missing the point.
Okay, so before we run out of time, I want to talk about tips. Designing for small spaces.
Yeah.
What are some things that we can think about that we can apply in any kind of space?
Okay, so one of the things I would say is paint colors. Monochromatic, obviously, if you do your whole entire house with, maybe one or two shades of the same color, absolutely perfect. It kind of makes the space seem light and airy. Just make sure you focus on texture. So texture is what makes a space interesting. So in a small space, if you only use two colors, do a lot of texture. And that's like linens and faux furs and, velvets. You could have an inexpensive sofa, but if you add a velvet pillow, it'll make it look even more expensive. So that's one thing to think about. Furniture pieces, focus on movable pieces, focus on leggy furniture. Obviously in small spaces, leggy furniture works really well. So, if you love to entertain, but you have a small space, maybe you can get an expandable dining table. They have some really cool ones right now that's really small, and then when your friends come over, you can make it bigger. If you don't have room for a dining table, make a bar station in your dining room. Maybe a bar cart, maybe retrofit a console for kind of the entertaining. You're still, you don't need a dining table to entertain. If you maybe have a great, sofa and some, ottomans, and maybe you have a small outdoor space, you could put a table, a bistro table with some chairs, but then you have a really cool bar station set up. It almost gives it that illusion that you have a dining space even though you don't. So
Can I
The
ask?
thing too about a bar cart, a bar station, there's just an elegance. Like it doesn't matter what space it's in, it just sort of elevates the whole room. So you just feel fancier when you're like, I feel like I should talk differently if there's a bar cart in the room. You know what I mean?
Does that come with staff?
yeah.
Does that come with its own butler?
Well, the bar cart?
The bar cart, yeah. Part and parcel.
Well, I I'm sure you're going to have one person at the party that always says, "I'll be the bartender." There's always that one person at the party that says, "I'll be the bartender of the night," because he or she thinks that they make the best drinks.
Well,
so I'm sure that's easy to do.
Just talking about parties for a second, and the trend where so many houses have the formal dining room once a year, maybe, doesn't get used. For what you're seeing at parties and socializing and staycationing, does anybody even sit there anyway? Or what do you kind of, somebody's hanging out in the kitchen, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think people are focusing more on doing their kitchens than doing their dining rooms. Because if you think about it, you always hang out in the kitchen. Always. You're hanging out in the kitchen to do homework. You're hanging out in the kitchen to cook meals. You're entertaining in the kitchen. You're not really entertaining in the dining room anymore. And people who do go to the dining room, when do you use it? Use it for Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And that's just about it. So the idea of even buying a home or living in a home with a formal dining space just really is that's kind of old. That's old school. People are doing these great things to their kitchen so that everything can be done there and everybody can be in the same space at the same time. I love, I always talk about eat-in kitchens, and I call them stove-to-table kitchens, and that's where people are eliminating the whole island. Like, get rid of the island, but put a dining table in that space or a little space that people can sit around. So you can literally cook, drink wine, make your spaghetti, and then have everyone just kind of sit around the table and watch you cook. I mean, that's the fun experience of entertaining. It's the cooking and the socializing. So you can do that in a small space too, and you don't need a dining table. So
I love the stove to table.
It's beautiful. I love how you've totally hijacked that farm to table thing and made it your own.
I love that.
I call it stove to table.
Can I go backwards for a second and ask you a question about your opinion of what you mentioned earlier? Housing and shipping containers.
Yeah, that's like the trend. It's all about like the small spaces, especially with this whole Airbnb movement that has obviously been going on for a couple of years. People are actually creating second homes in their backyard by taking these, small shipping containers or, RVs, Airstreams, putting them in the backyard, doing a little outdoor shower space, and then renting them out to people, or I heard in Austin, they're creating this community for a lot of the homeless population, but they're creating these really small spaces out of things like that, tiny trailers or shipping containers, and they're creating a whole community out of that because people don't need all this square footage anymore.
That's fantastic.
That is such a neat idea for people that don't have a place to live.
Yeah. Like on a scalable kind of real way to do it. It's not just one person one time. You can repeat that. You can stack them on top of each other.
Yeah, totally. Get some stairs. They can all get up to their own apartment.
If you hear a crane in the backyard, that's not me getting a shipping container.
No.
Just throwing it out there.
He almost bought a dump truck last week.
Oh.
So you never know what's going on.
Bring that action.
Yeah.
How many dump trucks can you fit in a tiny space? 0.
Exactly. None. You just bring it in to drop off the container, and that's about it.
That's it.
I mean, the whole small living, in small spaces, I think they're more cozy. I'm down for that. I was never a big fan of the big houses. I love the small spaces. I think they're much cozier. They're much easier to maintain. And in the end, it's, you can always design it right. A big space, you just feel like you're kind of floating around in it.
That is so true. Now, what do you do with people who are so attached to their things and they have to have all of their things and they don't have the art of letting go of things so that they can fit everything in a small space? Do you have to ever hand do the whole it'll be okay, you will be okay?
I always show people how to work in collections. If you have a lot of things and it doesn't cohesively fit into a collection, then you should not keep it. If it has sentimental value, but there isn't a place for it, store it. We have 2 storage containers because we live in a smaller space. We live 6 blocks from the beach. Our place is smaller, but we choose to live in a smaller place because it's cozier for us and it's a great location. But we have storage. We have 2 storage, and at least twice a year we purge what we don't want in our house and we bring it to the storage space if we don't want to throw it away. And what's funny is that every time we go back to the storage space, we end up throwing half the stuff away anyway because we haven't seen it for 6 months, so we really don't care about it. So, I tell everybody who has a lot of clutter and they don't know what to do with it, if they have this emotional attachment, let's create a collection out of it, like artwork, or let's say throws. You have a lot of throws, or you have a lot of bed pillows. If all of them don't cohesively match together, then let's get rid of the ones that don't, or put them in a storage space.
I love that idea of storage space, and like it's in that sort of netherworld where you can, like, if you're like, oh, I really miss my grandma's armoire and I really want to have it back here, and then you're like, I forgot all about that other object.
Well, here's my small space tip, and I'm inspired by Kelly Edwards. And by the way, if you're on Twitter at Kelly Edwards Inc.
Yes, we
look
follow
for her
her
on Facebook and all over the place. Her design tips and design tip cookbooks. But I've got one that no one's thought of yet.
We have just 1 minute left, so like, I'm scared.
We got time because
Okay.
it's easy. Forget the bed, throw that away, sleep on your too many pillows. That's it.
Oh, God.
Oh, you took my pillow? No, you didn't. The whole place is made out of pillows. And then throw them in a closet.
That would not fly. That would not fly. Very uncomfortable. Bad design choice.
Why? Just because your spine is curving just listening to me say it?
But you're gonna like make everything.
Yeah, it sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Like tables, chairs.
Everything's pillows.
Yeah.
And then you vacuum seal them in that thing. That's it. They're done for the day. You can
Space bag.
Have you
it all.
ever used one of those vacuum bags? After 3 minutes, all the air sucks in, and it fills up anyway.
Oh, great.
All right.
Follow Kelly Edwards on
Yes.
Twitter at Kelly Edwards Inc. Get her book.
Get the
Look
book.
for the new books. It's going to be a series. You rock. We're out of here. We'll be back with more My Fix It Up Live.
Thanks, Kelly.
Rebuilding Together believes that everyone deserves to live in a safe and healthy home. For nearly 25 years, Rebuilding Together has provided critical home repairs for low-income homeowners in need. With support from volunteers and skilled professionals, Rebuilding Together affiliates complete 10,000 rebuild projects every year, working to revitalize and stabilize vulnerable neighborhoods and communities across the country. Join Rebuilding Together and rebuild in your community. Find out how you can make a difference and get involved at rebuildingtogether.org.
Looking for a no-hassles roof for your home? Da Vinci Roofscapes offers affordable slate and shake roofing tiles that add long-term beauty to your home. The synthetic Da Vinci tiles resist mold, algae, fungus, and insects. Backed by a 50-year warranty, Da Vinci roofs are fire-resistant and withstand severe weather like high winds and hail. It's no wonder thousands of homeowners have chosen Da Vinci slate and shake tiles to not only protect but enhance the beauty of their homes. Learn more about award-winning Da Vinci products at DaVinciRoofscapes.com or call 1-800-328-4624 today.
I think we're just rocking out today on My Fix It Up Life.
I'm in it.
You're in it? Are you in it to win it?
I'm in my zone.
You're in the zone. You feel it? You feel the mojo, the Jomo, the mojo. No?
I mean, when I feel it, sometimes I can't articulate it because I'm in. I'm all the way in it, and it's my whole thing, and that's what I'm doing. That's right. Sometimes you can't articulate the art, the zen, the mojo.
I might need my own space here.
You might need your own tiny space.
Yes, and we have an awesome person on the line right now who we love.
Do we have her?
Our second small space expert on today's My Fix It Up Life, who designs for the Tiny House Nation on FYI, and also
The Big House Nation.
Extreme Makeover Home Edition, hundreds of those houses. Kim Lewis, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are y'all?
We are doing really good. It's so nice to see your face.
Thank you. I found a colorful spot to call you from.
I was just going to bring that up. You thought through showing up at a colorful spot. I mean, most people are just like their pajamas are hanging in the bed, behind
No,
them.
they're not. No, they're not.
You know me better than that, Mark. Of course, I thought about my backdrop.
That is awesome, though. But where are you? Because it looks like, I don't know what it looks like. It looks like Texas or Boston or something.
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Austin.
It's very colorful. Mm-hmm.
Now, is that where you're actually from?
I'm from a little town, a tiny town called Tyler, Texas. It's northeast of Dallas. But
Wow.
I live in Austin now. I just moved back from LA.
Oh, wow.
And Austin is like a mecca epicenter of all kinds of design, from like cutting edge styles to reclaiming neighborhoods, both like civic areas and residential areas. And it's a huge green movement there too, right?
Yes. Yeah, people are very eco-friendly here. A lot of green building. The tiny homes are really starting to show up around here. And, yeah, it's a very colorful town with a lot of culture right in the heart of Texas.
So I have to say, I was checking out the Tiny House Nation show on FYI and wildly impressed with the design on that show. And all the creativity that has to go into creating those spaces that not only are small, I can't even imagine like building inside those spaces. But the other thing is like how unique each one. Like I saw one where there's like actually a studio in a loft with the ladder that is used for both the bed part and the studio part, and making all of that work together. Like how do you come up with that kind of thing?
Well, these tiny homes, I mean, you really have a small space to work with, and you've got to make things multifunction, not even in one way, two ways, but multiple ways. So you just, try to think about, well, how can I use this one way and something else another way? And storage is, everything. Your sofa has to store things. I mean, these spaces are so little, y'all. You don't realize it until you walk in how much these families are compromising to get the tiny footprint.
But yet you're able to fit like a full-size sink. And there was one where the kids had 100 books. Like thinking about such a tiny footprint and that they have 100 books on the bookshelf blows my mind.
Yeah, you use literally every square inch. You have to. So, but it's nice because it forces you to think about what you actually really need in your home, too. How many of us have so many corners tucked away of just stuff you don't use?
It's true.
I love these tiny homes because it is all about, using what you need, just having what you need.
Now, I will be surprised if you aren't asked to be at least a guest lecturer or teach some kind of class to design students on how to design small, because like all of those creative ideas are so unique, and it actually is a great exercise for students of design to think about. There's a lot of those competitions for like designing the sustainable house, but like the tiny house is something that makes you really think about all of the different maxing out that space.
Yeah, and that in itself, and Kim, you can speak to this if you want to, that in itself is sustainability right there. You're not cutting down the trees, You're not consuming the fuel to heat it, cool it, etc., right?
Yes.
So
it is. It's all about a smaller footprint. And honestly, designing for tiny homes it's harder than, when you have a big house, you have all the space in the world and you just keep growing and growing and growing. But I love this movement. People are really trying to save money, live within their means, so that you have extra income to travel and to take dance classes and to do things that you're not so locked in to your mortgage. It's pretty awesome.
So
you're seeing like young couples, traveling, and it's fun. It's a really neat lifestyle.
Oh, you're totally kind of pre-answering my question, but I'll ask it anyway because it might bring to mind some other stories, which is, do you notice a common theme of why people go tiny house, or is it as individual as the tiny house owners?
It's both. I mean, I think there's a movement of people wanting to travel around our country, right? And jobs are getting a little bit more flexible in the sense of, like, we had a couple that were traveling nurses. And so there is a movement of people wanting to travel. I've kind of coined myself the vagabond designer. Have y'all seen that?
Yes.
I mean, literally, I travel all the time. And that's these people are wanting to travel. They're wanting a smaller footprint, and they're wanting something, yes, unique, that's not tied down to one suburban neighborhood. They can see the country in these tiny homes. Seriously, you throw your house on a trailer, and you take off down the highway.
Are the houses, in fact, mostly on trailers, or is it a blend of it's on the ground and you could drive a trailer underneath it?
I would say like 70% of these are on a trailer.
We have a trailer.
Most of them are on a trailer, so you travel with it.
We have a trailer.
You want to build a little house for yourself?
How do you change the tires on the trailer, though? Holy smokes. How do you pull into the garage? Could you,
Oh, yeah.
I need a grease the axle.
Great mechanic question.
Yeah, there's maintenance stuff. Every house has
We're going to have to look
kind.
into that, because that's crazy. I can see you building like a man cave on your trailer, though. And like you could then like travel around to friends' houses, and it's like the mobile man staycation
You have
thing.
just laid out the next 3
Do you know
months
what I
of
mean?
my life.
Okay, so I have to talk about the bathroom because I'm always fascinated. Now, in these tiny houses, they're all using like the compostable toilets, or there's like a variety of kinds of things they can use?
Most people are using the compost toilet.
Okay.
There's mixed reviews about them out there, but most people are using the compost toilet. And then we even did a tiny house with a bathtub, which is sort of unheard of. I mean, most of these units, you're locked into like a trailer-sized shower, but we actually did a bathtub in one, which was really fun.
Wow.
So did you have to like put stuff like over the bathtub for storage, or for like, does somebody sleep on the bathtub? Like, what's the multi-use?
Yeah.
Yeah, you throw your mattress over it at the end of the day. No, you definitely, you have your tile up, so you do as much storage as you can, but it's all about reducing what we have, though.
Okay.
I mean.
Yeah, Mark, remember that time when you got in the bathtub to sleep?
Yeah, it was a good night.
That was alcohol induced, though.
That was a good night.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was safe in there.
He felt really safe. It was a nice, cozy place to be, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we might have just lost Kim.
Yeah, I'm here on the phone.
We can still talk to you, though. So
we can hear you.
Yeah.
So the show that you designed for the Tiny House Nation, that's been airing on FYI. Are there more episodes that you're designing for?
Yeah, we are still going strong. I mean, the show has gotten a lot of great reviews. The network has added more. It is on the FYI channel. That's correct. And so, yeah, I'm acting more as a consultant for them, and trying to come up with big picture ideas and making these spaces unique to the homeowners.
Well, how do people find out how to get on the show? Do you know?
I think it's casting calls, and a lot of these couples are young, so they're in tune with, what's on the internet, and just getting. Yeah, I think it's casting calls, really.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably some information on like at the FYI website or Twitter or Facebook or something too about how to get involved and how to watch episodes too, because I think they have an app you can watch some of the episodes on.
Yes, I think you're right, and
that's amazing what technology can do these days.
Oh, it's unbelievable how connected we can be. That's why I'm going off the grid in my small house and my trailer.
Now, Kim, when you were designing for Extreme Makeover Home Edition, which is like those houses were ginormous and gorgeous and ginormous.
With yards and mountains in the
and
back.
ginormous.
Yeah.
And then creating all those little special places inside the house for the family members. And they were all beautiful and large and everything. And now designing so small, like, is there one or the other that sort of appeals to you?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going from one literally extreme to the other. I have to say I'm enjoying the tiny house movement, because I think it requires creativity in a different way.
Nice.
And I really, really appreciate the lifestyle that these homeowners have chosen. I mean, we don't need big houses. And a lot of, here's the deal. On Extreme Makeover, a lot of those families, as you know, they had medical needs. And so when you have medical needs, wheelchairs, and you have to have accessibility, naturally the hallways are wider, the doors are wider. I mean, the very nature of what we were doing many times was all about accessibility and, even chair lifts and things to get people out of their bed into the bathroom. And so it really was just a very different ballgame.
I appreciate
so
that.
I loved how we were helping people, but but the houses were big. They were definitely big. So it's fun to do something that's not taking such a big footprint of the earth.
So for people that are thinking about going small, are there places that you go for inspiration or places that you've traveled to that have really sort of helped inform the way you think about it?
Yeah, honestly, the glamping that I've been doing helps because, you're out in nature, you're camping, you've got a tent, you really see in traveling like that what you really need to live, and that you don't really need as much as you think you need. And so I would say that nature and glamping have been inspiring for me to think about how can I create a tiny space with just what people need to live and not more than what they need.
Not taking more than what you need is such a really good, I think that's a really good way to live by in every kind of sense. And that's like, thinking about not only what you consume physically, but also just
living in balance,
in interaction with your loved ones and everything like that, being more mindful of everyone else. I think that's so cool.
That's sweet.
But I have to ask you,
I do too. Yeah. I love what you just said. Is like the being closer to your family within your own home. You look at these big houses and the kids are upstairs and the parents are downstairs and you're disconnected.
I don't want to talk to my kids. Get off of me. I'm watching my shows. That's what I tell them all the time.
That's not how we roll in our house.
We're building an addition on our addition to our mansion.
We have a small house. It's not a tiny house. What's it, about 1,500 square feet?
Yeah,
it's not a very big house at all. Yeah, so we spend a lot of good quality family time together, despite what Mark has to say.
We sure do. I'm just my tough outer shell.
Yeah, he does.
At Kim Lewis Design on Twitter. You gotta follow the vagabond designer. Why? Because she's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's it. And watch the show at FYI Network, Tiny House Nation. We're gonna take a little tiny break. We'll be back right after this. Kim, you rock!
Woo! Thank you, Kim.
It's time to bring beauty back in your next project by seeing red. Born to beat the elements, Western Red Cedar is awesome for outdoor rooms, decks, fences, pergolas, and more. Inside, cedar's a sweet choice for hope chests, highlight walls, and woodworking projects, big and small. Stable, chemical-free, and safe, cedar's a natural choice. So bring beauty back to the yard and punch up projects inside the house. For more information and ideas, see red at wrcla.org.
Rebuilding Together believes that everyone deserves to live in a safe and healthy home. For nearly 25 years, Rebuilding Together has provided critical home repairs for low-income homeowners in need. With support from volunteers and skilled professionals, Rebuilding Together affiliates complete 10,000 rebuild projects every year, working to revitalize and stabilize vulnerable neighborhoods and communities across the country. Join Rebuilding Together and rebuild in your community. Find out how you can make a difference and get involved at rebuildingtogether.org.
You know what, Mark?
You're back inside my Fix It Up Life. I know that.
That's right, and that's the pub song. We love that song.
That song gets after it, though.
It
we
does.
have our undying faith and affiliation in Tim Williams.
We do. TimWilliams.com. We just went to his rock and roll show last night.
He's so good.
Where
if he
I
ever
have
comes
to say,
your town, drop what you're doing.
For everybody who's seen us, live, doing our show and has met the Tim Williams. I have to say his friendships are very unusual. He actually had a Ben Franklin impersonator playing the flute and saxophone on stage. And I don't think I've ever experienced that before. And so highs to the fives right there.
I don't know what that means because it's plural, and that's too big of a concept because we're talking small with Carmen Hotchkiss, Uber editor, Better Homes and Gardens.
BHG.
Nothing she doesn't know, including how to set up it with the coolest door behind her.
What is with that door? That's gorgeous.
That is awesome, Carmen.
Thank you.
When did you build that yourself in your shop?
Just last night.
That is amazing that you're able to build that just last night.
That's incredible how that works out that way.
Yes.
Yeah, good stuff.
You're only the best at BHG.
Only the best. And we're not here to put her on the spot. And I apologize if that's what that sounded like, because it wasn't intended to. We're here to talk design, decoration, and making the most of those tough, tiny spaces we all have in our homes, and the big word, trends.
Trends. Now, I'm wondering, everyone's talking that I'm hearing about is the tiny house and small spaces and, going smaller because you want to save money and all of those wonderful things. Is that something that your readers are talking about too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody, maybe the super small thing isn't for everybody, but when you look at those super small spaces, it really makes you feel a lot better about your own modest house. Like, hey, if somebody can live in 500 square feet, I can make do in my 1,500 or 1,700 square feet. And all those strategies for just living smarter become that much more important.
I like that you brought that particular word into it. And you chose it for a reason, and I'm wondering what you mean by living smarter in this context.
Yeah, I think being more thoughtful, sort of to Kim's point about figuring out what you can live without, what you really need, what you don't need, and maybe in your everyday life you don't have to pare that back quite to the camping level, but really being thoughtful about, how many people usually have to sit in my living room, and maybe I don't need enough chairs for the once a year Christmas party every day. I make a strategy for dealing with that once a year at Christmas. Thinking about the way you use your house and the function of it and even the flow of room, and being ready to, throw things out the window if the dining room space in your house would really be better as a family room, then feeling free to do that.
Yeah, that dining room, when I was growing up, the dining room was a place that we used for special occasions and also, and this is probably aging me, to type our reports when we were little kids.
With quill pens?
That's where the typewriter was. Yes, I know. With our quill pens. Ben Franklin came over, between playing the saxophone and the flute. He came over and we wrote it out with the quill. That's how we roll.
No errors, though. He wrote it in Greek and Latin.
But if we had a science fair board to do, we did it in the dining room because it was one of those places where nobody went. So it was a good place to go and do that special occasion project, too. Are you seeing people that are holding on to that dining room as an essential place? Is that something that readers are talking about?
Yeah, I think there's more and more willingness to give that up. There are always going to be people who hold it sacred and need it to be that twice a year space. But I think for the most part, this idea of living smaller and being more strategic about your house means people are looking at that dining room and going, wow, that doesn't make a lot of sense. We're doing our school projects in there anyway, so let's figure out a way to work half of the wall into a study spot that's dedicated to that and make the room function smarter.
Are people going towards, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Teresa, are people using it too for activities other than children, say a craft space or doing something that they love at home instead of just eating turkey?
Well, yeah, I think it's one of the top places for a home office. So whether that's, like you're really sitting there all the time, maybe not, but it's got the corner that's tricked out for when I need a desk, when I need those storage things, when I need that location for my office-y kind of stuff. The dining room really gets used for that a lot. We see that very often.
Wow. And are you talking about the full-time home office or the part-time home office where, domestic stuff, bills paid, schedules, calendars? Is it both, or is it one more than another?
We really see both. Certainly the home office-y kind of like you said, bill paying station, that makes a lot of sense. But we see a lot of professionals who work from home, particularly design professionals, who, that is where they sit. That's where they make their phone calls. That's the charging station for their laptop, where they really take their laptop all over the house. Work outside for a while, work in the kitchen for a while, work in the living room. But when they need a desk, it's their full-time home office spot.
Okay, so
here it comes, Carmen.
No, I'm going to ask a really...
Are you sitting down? We're looking at you. Of course you're sitting.
No, this is a very sane question.
You might want to stand up.
No, I'm really going to ask the very basic sane question. I want to know, is there a place that people can go on the BHG website to get ideas about small space design? See, very logical, very practical question.
Absolutely. There's a whole section of BHG.com dedicated to small space, to storage, and to strategies for figuring out, why does it seem like I don't have enough space? Sometimes it's not just about I need something more, but it's like you need to rethink how you use the space you have. So BHG.com/storage, I believe.
That's really smart.
That is fun.
So when people are writing in to the magazine or tweeting in or however they're connecting with you guys, are there sort of the top questions that you're asked about with small spaces? Is it storage that is the number one thing?
Yeah, storage, particularly the trouble spots, the pain points for people are entries, that drop zone, where does the mail go, and the shoes and the backpacks and all that stuff. Huge pain point, lots of questions around that. Kitchen's always a pain point because it seems like you always have more Tupperware, crock pot, all those kind of things that you don't necessarily fit normally into just a regular old cabinet. Pantries are a huge pain point, like the disaster that is containers and bags and boxes and stuff that's all different sizes. We often solve problems around pantries. And then bathrooms are kind of the other pain point spot. Just like you guys were talking about before, you're sharing a bathroom. There's a lot of just stuff that kind of goes with the daily miracle.
The daily miracle.
I'm going to have to pause for 60 seconds while I love that.
Majorly in love with that, and I'm going to use that. I will attribute it to you, but that's fantastic.
You've got the hand motion.
It's fantastic.
Genius. All the way. Thank God this is video. This is great.
So are there some of your special little extra special tips for dealing with the drop zone, which is such it makes everyone, I think probably every mommy person, wife person just go, oh, really? Why are your shoes there again? There's a place to put your shoes. Stop putting them there, please.
Yeah, one of the most important things is figuring out, why does the strategy you have right now not work? Why do the shoes not go in the basket? And that might just be hard-headedness, but it might be that the basket is under the table, and that's just too hard to pull the basket out and put the shoes inside. So by moving the basket next to the table...
Well, look at these muscles. They can move a basket, right?
I'm sorry, I was dozing off because It's so hard to move the basket, I get tired.
Mark does Spartan races. He could throw a spear. I think he can move that basket.
Oh, it's just not fun. It's just not fun.
Oh, it has to be a game then.
There you go. If that's what will solve your problem, putting a big bullseye on the basket, like, there you go. Just like figuring out why what you have now doesn't work. Some people are really visual storage people. Like, I can't put that school paper away because when I put it in the folder, I forget about it and it won't get turned in on time. So if you're really visual like that, then you need to like have a place that everybody agrees this can be your one place for the stuff that you need to be able to see and find, but you only get one place for that instead of here and here and here and here.
I like that one place thing.
That's great. I love that observation.
That's happened to Mark before, like when we went on that trip and you put all your clothes away in the drawer in the hotel room and we were gone for like a week and he kept wearing the same outfit over and over again. At the end of the week, when he packed up his bag and he's ready to go to the airport. And I'm like, aren't you going to take all of these clothes with you? And they were all in the drawer and he says, oh!
Yeah.
He forgot he had brought them.
It was early in our courtship, and I was, all the unicorns and stuff were flying around.
They were inside of a drawer. You couldn't see them.
And when I had traveled previously without her, living out of a bag, that's great, no problem. Well, I tried to do the nice guy thing and throw my stuff in the drawer, instantly forgot. And I think I had to throw my clothes away when I got home. I wore for a while.
Oh, the ones that you wore all
week. The ones I wore. The two
I'm
T-shirts.
sure that made a really great impression, too, that you wear your clothes over and over again.
Yeah, I'm willing to go for it.
See, some people think he just has multiples of the same thing. No.
Not in that case.
It's just the same thing.
What about, do you see anything relative to the shrinking of, like, gardens or gardening or landscaping in any way? Vertical stuff, that kind of trend?
Yep. Yeah, more people living in townhouses and other places that inside you can still decorate, but outside you don't have this big expansive lawn that requires a riding lawnmower to keep up with. Lots and lots of interest in container gardening. It's probably one of the number one searched things on DHG.com in the garden space.
Wow.
Want to know, like, what looks good together in containers? You can put one plant in a pot. Yeah. But how do I put 2 or 3 things in there and make it look all lush and balance the textures and the colors and the bloom time? And how do I know what to put in my sunny patio spot? And what do I put in my shady porch spot? And people really, really, really look for that information a lot. It's a huge trend right now.
I think that is such a great idea, is combining plants in one container. Because you do that when you're doing a bouquet, like a floral arrangement. Why not do that with a plant arrangement? I love that.
Can you keep color going, at least in theory, for long stretches of time by sort of blending flowers and plants that bloom at different times?
Yep, absolutely. Annuals tend to have the longest bloom time, but when you combine them with perennials that are early season and mid-season and late season, then you get that holistic view over the course of a whole, spring to fall.
Oh, that's beautiful. And then sometimes you can bring those inside over the winter, or is it best to sometimes just let them do their natural thing and pick up in the spring?
Most of them, it's better to just let them do their natural thing. If they're perennials that are hardy for your zone, they should be fine outside and really need that overwintering. They need to get cold over the winter, otherwise they won't know it's time to wake up again. If they're annuals, you can try to bring them inside, but they're just not going to hang on for much longer than the season outside.
Carmen Hotchkiss, we would like to hang on to you because you are an absolute wealth of information and inspiration.
And she made that door just last night.
Yeah. in her woodworking door shop. So find out more from and by Carmen at BHG on Twitter. Carmen Hotchkiss, Better Homes and Gardens. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We will be back with more My Fix It Up Life in a jiffy.
Around here,
It's time to bring beauty back in your next project by Seeing Red. Born to beat the elements, Western Red Cedar is awesome for outdoor rooms, decks, fences, pergolas, and more. Inside, cedar's a sweet choice for hope chests, highlight walls, and woodworking projects, big and small. Stable, chemical-free, and safe, cedar's a natural choice. So bring beauty back to the yard and punch up projects inside the house. For more information and ideas, see redwrcla.org.
Add more curb appeal to your home.
Create a memorable entrance with Therma-Tru fiberglass doors and 5-pond synthetic trim that won't warp, crack, or rot.
And give you those rich details that make your home a showpiece.
Make your great entrance by visiting thermatru.com and 5pond.com.
I'm pretending that I'm singing the song, Mark. Are you?
I don't have to pretend.
You are?
I sing like a meadowlark.
A meadowlark? What's a meadowlark?
That's a bird.
Really?
Yeah, meadowlark.
Meadowlark. I thought you said
metal
lark. Like it's like a metalhead, like
Well, that's
really
what I sing, like a meadowlark.
Crazy, the Headbangers Ball kind of thing.
What TV do you watch when I'm not here?
Birds that enjoy that old show on MTV. Remember Headbangers Ball?
That was on at like 2 a.m.
Like when Yo MTV Raps used to come on too.
Oh, yeah. I was busy not watching that.
You were busy.
I was busy. But, speaking of metal, that brings me to something I have a little bit of a thing about.
Okay. Let's address it. Bring it in close.
Let's stir the cast iron pot.
So, Mark, what's your problem today?
What I call storage containers or sea cans, the shipping containers.
Okay.
That's the whole thing. People are all up and you open up the pages of Dwell magazine, or even different people are making homes or additions with sea cans. And in some cases that's good, but I find that to be a little bit trendy.
So you want to be untrendy?
No, what I've not seen in very many conversations about them and about the small space is the enormous amount of retrofit they require to get, say, a window or a door in them.
Okay.
There's no interior walls. There's no insulation. So if you want that to not be an oven, you have to build a house inside that house.
Okay.
You have to put wiring in there. You have to put plumbing. It needs a foundation. It's not like you just drop it in your backyard, open the door, like a Penske rental truck.
But you know what might be really awesome for those two, though, is that if you build your house on your trailer and you have a shipping container, you can use that shipping container as like your garage.
Yeah, that's right. I think you can.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
I guess.
I think you can use it as your garage.
Well, we want to know about your small spaces.
Yes, we do.
We want to know about your inspirations and what you have done to make little, big, and awesome. Email us.
info@myfixituplife.com.
Follow us on Twitter.
At MyFixitUpLife.
The book.
My Fix It Up Life.
We're even on Google Plus. Right here.
My Fix It Up Life.
We gotta go.
I won. What did I win? I answered all the questions correctly.
We'll be back with another rousing, gigantic episode of My Fix It Up Life.
Next time.
Next time.
Right here. Thanks, guys.